Good evening, race fans, and welcome out to the Attrition Sim Race Campus Oval Series presented by SM Racing Products. Tonight, here at the wonderful Oxford Plains Speedway up in Oxford, Maine, for round 7 of season number 17. Kicking off the second half of the season, and what better track than the dreaded forever left turn? Of course, coming in at 0.37 miles in length or 0.6 kilometers in length for those of you who don't speak in freedom units up here in Maine. This track was a little bit of an exciting one, a little bit different from what we normally see here. If you can see out here behind the graphics here, there are no outside walls here at this speedway aside from the front straightaway where the grandstands are. If you go off the track, good luck. You're basically going into a gravel pit and you're going to have a hell of a time trying to get back out of that. Of course, track opened up back in 1950. Third time that ASRC has ever visited this speedway. First time was back in 2022 where Coy Hasselou took home the win. Then Tyler McRae did it himself in 2023 Season 3, so a full year later. And now only the third time we have been out to this eccentric little raceway. Curious to see how these drivers take things out here because we have 11 drivers here in the field. Only 2 of them have ever finished in the top 5 of the previous visits to these tracks, those being Brian Sabelski and Jason Gardner, who are actually going to be starting up near the front of the field here in tonight's event. And speaking of drivers starting up near the front of the field, how about we take a look down at our starting lineup for round number 7 of the season. Starting out on the pole here in the number 12, it's going to be none other than our current championship points leader by a very substantial margin here. That's going to be the number 12 of Mr. Garrett Hess. Starting his outside, driver out of Denver, Colorado, in that McConey setup shop entry, that is going to be the 85 of Brian Sabelski, one of the 2 drivers in question to have gotten even a top 5 here in the last 2 visits to this track. And following just behind him back in third, that's going to be league administrator Mr. Jason Gardner, the other driver, the only one here in the field to have gotten a top 5 finish at this track. Then back and forth in the unsponsored number 78, that's going to be Mr. Derek Murphy, who was the fastest car in practice for at least a little while here tonight. He's going to be rolling off position number 4. Back in 5th in the HTV number 4 machine, that's going to be one of our Canadian drivers, Mr. Daniel Sparks, rolling off position number 5. Unfortunately, he was unable to make it out last week at the Lime Rock Park, so great to see him back here tonight for Oxford Plains. Back in 6th, one half the folks who put together the sponsor for the ASRC's Oval Series, that's going to be none other than Mr. Garrett Streets, rolling it off there in the SM Racing Products number 15 machine. Back in 7th in the number 42, another one of the Mooselander drivers in the Mooselander sponsored car. It's going to be Mr. Michael Sparks, rolling it off position number 7. Back in 8th in the 188 K9P Racing entry, the driver out of Medford, Wisconsin. That's going to be none other than Joshua Rudolph. Followed by the driver out of Noonan, Georgia. That's going to be the 24ZZ Robotics entry of Corey Logan, rolling it back off position number 9. Back in 10th, it's going to be the number 45 Motor Racing Network entry of Mark Kluge, followed by, back at the very tail end of the field, that's going to be the number 09 of Benjamin Harsty, who I don't believe was able to put in a qualifying time here tonight, but he's going to be rounding out the tail end of the field here, back in position number 11. So, of course, as usual, going to be 100 laps the distance here tonight. And it is bound to be a bit of a wild one here at this tiny little third of a mile speedway. Of course, we talked a moment ago about not having outside walls, but you can see those dirt mounds protecting the light posts on the inside. Those might just act as ramps if one of these drivers gets loose and spins out. We'll see what happens because the green flag is up in the air here at the Oxford Plains Speedway. So far, so good. Down into turn number 1. No one's gotten too violent with each other quite yet. Here is Garrett Hess leads the field around the circuit. And as you can see, it's just like I said, this raceway is the forever left turn. You do not ever straighten out your wheel at this track. There might be a tiny little bit of an excuse of back straightaways here, but you do not ever stop turning the wheel at least a little bit. Garrett Hess continuing to lead the field here across the line for lap number 3, clicking off 17-second lap times around the field here. They are going to be going by mighty darn quickly here this evening. Sabelski right on the tail of that number 12 machine here in the early goings of this one. The two of them starting to pull away from the rest of the field already, only with just a couple of laps to their name. But Sabelski is not going to let Hess go easily. A little bit further back, Jason Gardner, Daniel Sparks battling it out. Sparks for a minute looked like he got on the inside of that number 93, but looks like not quite able to make it stick. He's going to try for it again here, and it's down the front straightaway, if you can even call it that. But again, not quite close enough to make it work there. That number 78 of Derek Murphy just behind, though, he's trying to see if he can't make a little bit of a higher line work here. And so far, I mean, he actually is slowly gaining a little bit of ground on that number 4 machine. Looking at the lap times, though, yeah, Derek Murphy was a little bit faster that time around in the 78, so definitely curious to see if maybe in the later goings of this race, if we don't see the outside line perhaps come in just a little bit. I'm a little further back there, though. That's Garrett Streets in the number 15 SM Racing Products machine. Of course, title sponsor of the ASRC Oval Series, been a long-time partner of the league, and we definitely appreciate all of the help that they give us. He's running back in the 6th position right now, and it looks like having maybe a little bit of hiccups here with his internet. He's also 2nd in the championship points right now, so this driver in that 15 machine is really looking to try and make up all the spots he can here, because it is a battle between himself and Garrett Hess for the lead in the point standings. Right now, running back in 6th, just ahead is the 78 of Derek Murphy, who is trying to find a way between Sparks and Gardner as they duke it out here for the final podium position. The two leaders, Hess and Sabelski, absolutely sailing away from the field right now. The more these drivers battle for 3rd, the more and more of a gap that they are managing to pull away here. And it's actually looking like the outside line might just be working here in these little mini stock machines. Daniel Sparks is making some moves here on the outside of the number 93. Not quite able to clear him yet, but definitely going neck and neck with him. And let's see how we do as we cross the line here between the two of them. Last time by, Sparks actually slightly slower than Jason Gardner by about maybe 5,000ths of a second, so really not all that much, but every little bit of difference in lap time when we're only turning 17-second laps is a pretty big deal. Speaking of pretty big deals here, how about that number 09 machine down here, Benjamin Harsty, up +5 from where he started all the way back at the very tail end of the field, rapidly working his way up towards the front here. He has gotten around a couple of drivers, but the yellow flag is out. First caution out on the speedway, and it's going to be for the 42 of Michael Sparks in that Mooselander entry. First caution flag of the evening, and only 15 laps into tonight's event, but what a hectic 15 laps it has been so far. Let's take a look back here, see if we can't see what all happened to this driver to bring out the caution. You can see just behind the 42 machine, that is Lasizia Robotics 24 of Corey Logan. Corey goes down the inside. So far, so good, and looks like the two drivers just kind of came down and got into each other. And of course, you can see that curb down on the inside of turn 3 and 4 to protect pit entry. Getting up on that curb can be very dangerous, especially in these smaller cars. You don't want to get stuck up on that, potentially get beached, or potentially even maybe get a little bit of suspension damage from hitting it. And it looks like that might actually be where the contact originated from. Was from perhaps that 24 machine getting down on the down on that curb a little bit. We'll take a look down here. Take a look at the 24, and you can see that left front gets up on the curb, and that just kind of pushes them back up the track. And definitely an unfortunate situation there, but it looks like that will bring out our first caution here of the evening. Getting the cars racked back up now. Sparks still on the raceway. Really didn't get much in the way of damage from that. Just bumped back to the tail end of the field behind Mark Kluge. And up at the front, I would imagine we're about to get the one to go from the iRacing.com pace car. Sure enough, yes, we are, so we'll rack them back up here. It's going to be Hess and Sabelski, your front row, 1 and 2, just like how they qualified. Jason Gardner still third from where he qualified. Then back and forth, going to be Garrett Streets up +2 from where he started. Then in the row behind him, Benjamin Harsty up +5 back in row number 3. Pace car's off. We're going to try this thing once again. Green flag up in the air. Let's see what these drivers are able to do here tonight at the Oxford Plains Speedway. So far, so good. Down into turn number 1. Still 2x2, 3 rows deep here, and a little bit of contact there between Sabelski. More contact down there between our race leaders. Everyone here absolutely muscling position. They know really that the restarts at this tiny little track is where you need to make your moves. Because once these drivers get down to the inside, get on that preferred racing line, it's really hard to get around them without applying a little bit of force. You see their contact again between the number 93 of Jason Gardner and the number 85 of Brian Sabelski just behind. Streets and Sparks maybe getting a little argy-bargy with each other as well. Benjamin Harsty just behind. He's waiting for an opportunity to move in here as well, as more contact between these drivers and a little bit of 3 wide there down through turns 3 and 4. Why not? The gloves have come off after a single caution flag. Only 22 laps in these books, and these drivers are taking this into a full contact sport here tonight. Benjamin Harsty maybe giving a little bit of a nudge to that 78 of Derek Murphy. That just moved him back to 7th. Now Harsty running back in the 6th position in that 09 machine. Now has to deal with Streets and Sparks up in front of him. That is Daniel Sparks up there. That is battling for the 4th position between these two drivers. But it is still anyone's game in tonight's event. We're only 24 laps in the books, and Harsty, sure enough, is going to get up to 5th just like that. Now let's see if he can't put the pressure down, get up to that 15 machine of Garrett Streets. See if he can't maybe start to worm his way up in here into the podium of tonight's event. And again, we're crossing the line here to complete lap number 25. We are only a quarter of the way into tonight's event, but these drivers have put on a heck of a show so far here this evening, and I have imagined that they're not going to be settling down anytime soon. Of course, when you are stuck in the cycle of making left turns forever and ever, it is a little bit difficult to let yourself get in a rhythm and calm down. How about that contact between Gardner, Streets, and Harsty there coming out of turn number 4? Definitely a little bit of a scary sight to see. All 3 drivers managed to hang on to it, but all 3 of them were all sorts of topsy-turvy. They're getting very loose coming out of turn number 4. Now Harsty working to the inside of Garrett Streets for the 4th position here. Not quite able to clear that 15 machine quite yet, but he is certainly putting the effort in to try and get around him. Sure enough, going to get around him down into turns 3 and 4, and he is clear. Streets now going to try and get down to the bottom of the speedway, cut off Murphy, and try to hang on to that spot. But now Harsty's up +7. Can he work his way around the number 93 of Jason Gardner? Maybe even go from last all the way up into the podium, and we might just see this driver even battle his way up to the very front of the field here in these next 70 laps or so. Up at the front, Garrett Hess, Brian Sabelski, still the battle for the lead. These two drivers have really been neck and neck with each other. It feels like pretty much every single finish here this season has been really close between the two of them. But sure enough, caution flag out once again. Sabelski got a little bit loose right before the yellow came out, but we're seeing that the caution was for that 15 of Garrett Streets. Corey Logan possibly also involved here as well, and potentially also Michael Sparks. We're seeing multiple cars, at least from race control, that might have been involved in this incident. So let's take a look back, see if we can't figure out what happened here, starting with that number 15 of Garrett Streets, who of course was battling with Benjamin Harsty for the 4th position. And just gets the left front on the curbing coming out of turn number 4, gets it locked down, but there comes Corey Logan with a massive impact into him. Taking another look back here, I think we're going to need to take a ride on board with the CZ Robotics 24 machine coming into this incident, because that was a hard impact. Even with how relatively slow these cars go for race cars. Streets down to the inside, Logan thinks it's okay to go, and then he just comes back up on the track and big smash into the side of that number 15 machine. And that 24 does not quite sound like it's handling right here. Take another look down here at this. Corey battling with the 4 and the 188 in the middle of this incident. And just wham, straight into the side of the 15 machine. So that will be what brings out caution flag number 2 on the speedway here tonight. We're stacking them up 2 by 2, so we will be going green flag racing once again here next time around. Going to be, once again, Hess and Sabelski leading the field to green. That's going to be Gardner and Benjamin Harsty for row number 2. Harsty up +7 here this evening. We'll see what these drivers are able to do here on this restart. The pace car has once again gone down a safety pit lane. We're going to try this thing once again. Green flag back up in the air here at the Oxford Plains Speedway. Hess off to an early lead as Sabelski and Gardner battle it out for the second position, neck and neck. Gardner, of course, on the preferred line here. He's going to make the move for second as the 09 machine. That's Harsty getting a little bit muscled up to the outside here by the 78 of Derek Murphy. Murphy still down to the inside, trying to make a move work on that 09 machine. Harsty going a little bit wide there on corner exit, and again, almost looks like maybe a little bit of contact between the 78 and the 09. The two of them definitely really muscling it with each other here, and of course Harsty probably trying to get down to the preferred line down the inside as we have trouble for Jason Gardner. Gardner gets loose big time, ends up down in the infield, brings back up on the track, but back in the third position now with Harsty and Murphy hot on his heels. Of course, back in that HTB entry, that number 4 of Daniel Sparks trying to get involved in this battle as well. He lost a little bit of ground from the beginning of this race, now on the pursuit of making that ground back up. And if he's able to get around Harsty here, he will be back in the position where he qualified, and that is certainly a step in the right direction to potentially taking home a checkered flag here this evening, but still a long way left to go, and it doesn't look like he's quite got the speed or grip he needs to get around that 09 machine, at least for the time being. Harsty is managing to make that outside line work here, and sure enough, he comes down, closes the door on the 4 machine going down in turns 3 and 4. Harsty is going to secure the 5th position here for the time being. How about just behind, though, the 188 K9V racing entry of Joshua Rudolph here battling with Corey Logan for the 7th position, and Logan is going to make that spot work pretty well for them. Rudolph getting a little bit loose, going high out of turn number 2, and that is going to cost them a bit of ground there. Corey now trying to make the move here on the number 4 of Daniel Sparks, and the two of them still just behind that battle going on between Harsty and Murphy. Nobody willing to give an inch here tonight. Harsty now down on the inside of Derek Murphy in that 78 machine, and looks like they will be side by side going down into turns 3 and 4. That should be good for them, and we might have a car around here potentially. Well, looks like everything's good. Corey has lost a couple positions and a little bit of spots, but no caution on a speedway. It looks like everyone's pointed in the right direction around the field, so I'm not quite sure what happened there. Now the battle is between the 4 and the 188. Rudolph on the outside, Sparks on the inside here. That 188 trying to follow through with Harsty's strategy of working the outside line, and it seemed to be working around for him. Sparks getting a little bit loose, having to get on the brakes coming out of turn number 4. That's going to allow Rudolph to clear him. Now Rudolph having a little bit of breathing room to play with here. Now it's a matter of catching up to the 78 of Derek Murphy. How about up in third here, Jason Gardner hanging on to the final podium position for the time being, but Benjamin Harsty is all over him. Riding on board here with that 09 machine, you can see just how close they're getting between these two drivers coming through the corners. Not even a car length between the two of them, and I'm sure Harsty is going to close that gap up even further here. Of course, almost getting nose to bumper. Not quite able to. But you can see how much these mini stocks are sliding through the corners here as well. You'd almost think they're at a dirt track here tonight, but not quite. Next week, though, we will be heading to a dirt track in these mini stock cars for some proper drifting in the mud. So that will definitely be a sight to see. That said, halfway into tonight's race, and it looks like we might be getting a little bit of contact there between the 09 and the number 93, but what better way to look at our title sponsor, of course, smracingproducts.com. They've been partnered here with ASRC for a couple of years now, at least it feels like. Putting together, oh, a little bit of contact there. Those drivers been putting together some high quality button boxes and other sim racing equipment, and of course, one of their founding members, Mr. Garrett Streets, is here in tonight's event, though he is currently, unfortunately, one lap down. But, oh, there's a little bit of contact there between the two of them. But make like the 09 and head on over to smracingproducts.com and check out what all they have to offer, because they have some real neat sim racing equipment on there. They look a little bit further back here, the 78 still battling it out together with the 188 of Joshua Rudolph. Rudolph now is the one working the bottom as Murphy tries to make the high line work, but very quickly not really going to commit to that. He's just going to fall back a little bit, let the 188 go by so he can get back down on the preferred line. Probably the call. We've only seen the outside line really work for Benjamin Harsty at all, and maybe a little bit for Sabelski at some points, but for the most part, Harsty is really the only one that's been making the high line have any sort of success here. And speaking of Harsty, he is once again all over the back bumper of that number 93 machine. He is determined to at least get up into the podium here tonight. Both drivers getting up on the curb coming out of turn number 4 there. That was a little bit scary to see, but both drivers keeping it pointed in the right direction here, at least for the time being. Just up ahead of these two, that is the 15 of Garrett Streets, who is unfortunately a lap down here right now. Of course, actually that is going to be making him 2 laps down here, as a matter of fact, so won't be put back on the lead lap if a caution flag were to come out. But if we get 2 back-to-back cautions, Streets will be getting back in this race. And of course, as Gardner and Harsty battle it out for the 3rd position here, that is just giving plenty of time for Hess and Sabelski to absolutely sail away from the field. Sabelski has a 2-second gap over Gardner and Harsty, and Hess has another full second over Sabelski for second. Things getting fairly spread out here at the Oxford Plains Speedway. I'll get those 2 early cautions, but these drivers seem to be settling in here just a little bit and getting a little bit more spread out here from each other. Lap times have slowed down about half a second from all of these drivers' personal bests. Of course, the fastest lap that's been set here tonight was actually set by Brian Sabelski, a 17.02 second lap. Now drivers setting lap times roughly in the 17.6 to 17.7 second range. So definitely a lot of tire fall off here tonight, but I can't imagine we're going to see drivers pit here this evening. Maybe if we gamble on a late race caution, but I imagine drivers aren't going to want to come down here tonight, especially at the Oxford Plains Speedway, because you can see down there in the infield, there are 2 separate pit lanes at this track, which just makes it all the more hectic to try and navigate. That said, since we only have 11 drivers, I'm pretty sure only the primary pit lane will be used here. I don't think we have enough cars to need to use the backup pit lane. But definitely something to keep in mind should these drivers end up needing to pit. It is very awkward and very uncomfortable to get these cars down into the infield, at least in the preferred, safe, and recommended manner. Plenty of opportunities to go down into the infield if you just get your left front tire on these inside curbs. Still looking at the closest battle on the speedway here, Harsty and Gardner. Only about half a car length apart from each other. Let's see how the lap times are when they cross this time around. It's going to be a 17.62 for both of them, actually. These drivers are setting identical lap times with each other. Why not? We do have a driver that just went off the raceway, though. That is the number 15 machine. That seems to potentially be having a little bit of issues here. Of course, that lap car of Garrett Streets, who is again off the raceway. Potentially some steering issues maybe for the 15 machine. He is way off the track. Brings it back up, of course, no caution flag, no reason to, no wrecked cars, and this 15 machine, while he's going off the speedway, he is able to bring it back up. We have another car off the speedway here as well. That's the 42 machine. That seems to be having some difficulties here. That's down in turn 1 and 2. He's bringing it back up on the track. That will put him a lap down here in that 42 machine. And Garrett Streets looks like he's going to be bringing it on down to pit lane here. Going to go over the dump just a little bit. Definitely need to be wary of those berms around these light posts. They will send these cars airborne. So Streets is going to bring it down to pit lane. That might be the last we see with that 15 machine here tonight, especially with that jump he just made. That might have caused some damage to the undercarriage of that machine. Now leave Sparks, the only driver on the track right now that is not on the lead lap. Of course, should a caution flag fly, he will be put back on the lead lap. And still, we look down at this closest battle on the speedway here between Gardner and Harsty, who have just been going at it neck and neck for, it feels like, probably 30-40 laps now. A little bit further back, there is another battle starting to develop here. Corey Logan is beginning to close up on the number 78 machine here, down to within half a second and climbing. Corey is about 1/10 of a second faster than Derek Murphy per lap right now. So that number 78 machine might be starting to have those tires burn away just a little bit here. Sure enough, another lap goes by. Corey Logan closes by about another 1/10, roughly, between the two of them. I imagine soon we will see that number 24 machine be in striking distance. This is a battle for the 6th position here between the two of them. Corey coming into tonight's event in the 8th position in the championship standings. Murphy only 5 points ahead of them in the 7th position in the championship standings. So this is a battle that could be for position in the actual point standings here, depending on how bonus points and the likes play out here. We did just hear from Garrett Streets down in the chat here this evening. Now he's out in the stands, so looks like that might be the 15 machine out of the race here as we hit 25 laps left to go. And he hasn't brought it to the hauler yet, so he might still be planning to bring it back out here on the track, get a couple another laps under his belt. But at 11th place finish. Oh, contact there. Watch out. Logan making the move on the 78 machine. Is it going to stick? Side by side between Logan and Murphy, but Logan's going to make the pass happen just like that. Murphy not giving it up so easily, though. Tries to get back up alongside on the outside, but not quite able to make it happen here. Now 23 laps left to go. There's a battle going on up at the front of the track right now, though. Brian Sabelski has had Jason Gardner catch up to him. He has lost a lot of ground here. Garrett Hess has now pulled away to a nearly 5-second lead, and Sabelski has Gardner all over his rear bumper here, and actually just like that, Sabelski just a little bit too hot on corner entry, going to drift off the track, and just like that, Gardner's now down on the inside. Jason Gardner up to the 2nd position here for the first time in tonight's event. Now Benjamin Harsty has the opportunity to try and look and get in on this battle with the 85. And just behind, that's the 188 lurking back there as well. We might see him get involved in this battle. It looks like roughly about half a second between each of these drivers. Call it about car length and a half, really, between all 4 of them. And Garrett Streets is back out on the raceway as well, so it looks like maybe doing a little bit of texting and driving here while he was getting that car repaired. But he is brought back out on the track, 11 laps down here. But every lap turn is a little bit more experience here in this mini stock that he can take with him into future races and try and get a little bit more speed to work with and maybe a little bit better circumstances in these future races. Benjamin Harsty, Joshua Rudolph, both really closing in on that number 85 machine here. Sabelski just trying his best to hold on to a podium at this rate, I think. And just behind Garrett Streets, of course, Streets on newer tires than the rest of the field here, having to be down on pit lane for 11 laps. And of course, that was 11 laps that allowed those tires to cool back down to a more comfortable temperature, so he's right on the heels of this battle as well, though it is not about position between Streets and these other drivers. Rudolph, though, trying to see if he can't make a move work on the outside line with 15 laps left to go. Definitely curious to see how that's going to play out for him here. So far, not having much success. He's going to drop back down to the bottom, maybe try and get to the inside, going through into turns 3 and 4, and he's going to be able to get to the inside. Will he be able to make the move stick is the big question. Sure enough, yes, he is. Joshua Rudolph up to the 4th position. A lap car just up in front of them as well, side by side with Sabelski. That is the 42 of Michael Sparks, who is now 2 laps down. Just keeping it up to the top of the speedway. He does not want to get involved with this battle for the podium in any way, shape, or form. Joshua Rudolph, on the other hand, he is absolutely raring and ready to go, hot on the heels of the number 85 machine. He's going to try and push his way up to 3rd. Now going up high, seeing if he can't make the high line work, as we have had several drivers now just get lapped by Garrett Hess. Mark Kluge, Daniel Sparks, Derek Murphy, all a lap down now, as Joshua Rudolph makes the move happen on the outside of the number 85 machine. Rudolph up to the 3rd position. Benjamin Harsty trailing just behind this battle. He might be trying to take notes here and make the move happen on the outside as well. 11 laps left to go here at the Oxford Plains Speedway, though, and driver off the track, that is Mark Kluge, trying to get out of the way of the race leaders. Goes a bit wide there. Kick and gravel up onto the racing surface, so that's going to make things a little bit slippery here for a lap or two. But he manages to hang on to it, so no harm, no foul. But the big double high fives up in the air. 10 laps left to go for our race leader of Garrett Hess, who is leading the field pretty much entirely uncontested right now, up to a 5.3 second lead. But all the drama right now is between Harsty and Sabelski, battling it out for the 4th position. Look at the lap times. Last time by Harsty was about a little bit over a full tenth of a second faster than Sabelski. But it just seems like he's not quite able to close the gap up right now. Coming across the line once again, that time equal times between Sabelski and Harsty, 18.09 to the both of them. That said, Harsty closes up pretty good there through turns 3 and 4. Not quite close enough to make a move yet, and with only 7 laps left to go, the clock is very quickly ticking away for this driver to make the move happen. Now 6 to go, as Hess has already crossed the start-finish line. But he's getting there. He is definitely closing up the gap between himself and Sabelski. Now down to only 0.2 of a second between the two of them. Going to be big high five up in the air. 5 laps left to go at the Oxford Plains Speedway for Garrett Hess, leading the field with now an almost 6-second lead. Gardner also pulling away up to a full second lead over the rest of the field. Rudolph pulling away from Sabelski and Harsty as well. So things have really spread out for your top 3 drivers here. It's really just this battle for the 4th position is what it's all coming down here. The rest of the field seems to be pretty settled on where they're going to be finishing here tonight. Harsty still just not quite able to close it up here, up to 0.5 of a second, make that 0.6 of a second between himself and Sabelski here with 3 laps left to go. It is getting harder and harder to close the distance. We're at the point now with only 3 laps left to go. I think 7/10 of a second is going to be hard for that driver to close up here. Well, we got 2 laps left to go. Make it a lap and a half for the number 12 of Garrett Hess, who has led every lap here tonight. How about we cross the line, put the white flag up in the air? It's going to be only 0.37 of a mile for Garrett Hess left to drive before he takes home another win here on the season. Going to be win number 5 tonight for the driver out of Mechanicsville, Maryland. Leading every lap uncontested, it will be none other than Garrett Hess taking home the checkered flag here at the Oxford Plains Speedway. 100 more laps led, add to this driver's stat book here in the ASRC Oval Series. And in very dominant fashion, a nearly 6-second lead, and sure enough, he is going to go over the bump. Will he stick the landing? No, he will not. How about Michael Sparks? Will he stick the landing? Yes, he will. Bonus points for Michael Sparks. Will Murphy stick the landing? Yes, he will. Give it up for these drivers who have put on such a heck of a race here tonight. I don't know about the ethics of this show, and actually every single driver that went for the jump, with the exception of our race winner of Garrett Hess, landed wheeled size up. So at least they've got that going for them. I guess only race winners land on their hoods. Don't go where race ends. We will be back here in just a moment with some words with your top 3 finishers here this evening.
More professional than the ending.
Alrighty, race fans, welcome back to the ASRC Oval Series here at the Oxford Plains Speedway. 7 races in the books, and now 5 wins to his name. Once again, it is Mr. Garrett Hess taking home the checkered flag. Garrett, how are you feeling here this evening?
Feeling pretty good. Actually wasn't really expecting to come out with a win with this.
Fair enough. I mean, this is arguably one of the trickier tracks here on the schedule, but you managed to do it in pretty dominant fashion here tonight. So once you got into it, what really made things click for you here this evening?
I think it was really just qualifying on pole. This is a pretty much a one lane track, so as long as I started on the front, like on the inside line, I essentially could control the race from there, since they'd either have to move me out of the way or burn the tires up trying to pass me. So ever since the start of the green flag, I could just kind of just cruise around, try to pad a gap as much as I could.
Fair enough. Definitely seemed to work out for you here tonight. And of course, your two closest competitors in the point standings both finished outside of the podium here tonight, so that should advance your points lead even further going next week into Lanier Dirt. How do you feel about doing a little bit of drifting in this thing?
Well, I was pretty good. I was pretty good at Lima Land. I'll have to see how Linear Dirt treats me and if it's similar to that. But I'm looking for a good result there. Just looking to pick up more wins for the season, really.
Sure enough, certainly seems like a solid plan. Of course, the points are looking amazing for you right now, so I think you honestly could have some pretty bad races and still do very well in them. I imagine your goal now at this point is just as many checkered flags as physically possible.
Yeah, that would be nice. I would like to try for the record. I think it's like 9, I think. Um, but that might be a little bit too much of wishful thinking. But I'll try to get as much as I can. To, just to have something to show for a good season.
Sure enough, mathematically there's enough races left to do it, so why not go for it?
Yeah, gives me something to gives me something to race for. At least I'm not gonna race like an idiot trying to get a record in an iRacing league, but it'd be nice to try to break that record.
Fair enough. Well, of course, very solid run for you here tonight. Very solid performance so far. Next week, Lanier Dirt, then Darlington, then what else? We got a road course, Texas infield road course long. I'm sure that will be a little bit of an episode for some of these drivers. Then USA Speedway Dirt and South Boston. So, I mean, it's basically all short tracks in some capacity or another.
Yeah, so I'm liking my I'm liking how the schedule is panning out, especially with Texas Texas road course, since it's gonna almost be entirely flat. So I'm not gonna have to worry about like the banking screwing me over or anything. But I just have to take it one race at a time.
Good deal. Well, of course, I won't keep you here all night. You have a fifth trophy to go and celebrate. Keep getting here this evening. But before I let you go, the microphone is all yours. Who you want to thank for making things happen here tonight?
I want to thank Corey Logan for doing the Dale Jr. Irish and Charity mini stock Iowa race, whatever you call it. Saturday night, that was a lot of fun. Finished well. I want to thank people at Team Watson Racing, great group of people over there. Setups for pretty much any oval combination you could want. Team Watson Racing Setups.com. And I want to thank my brother for giving me something to wake up towards in the morning. I want to thank you, Jason, and everyone else in ASRC for keeping this league clean and fun and keeping the show rolling.
Good deal. Well, thank you for coming out here tonight. Congratulations on win number 5, and congratulations for being the only driver to not land on your wheels at the end of tonight's race.
Thank you very much.
And finishing back here in position number 2, it's going to be Mr. League Administrator Jason Gardner, one of the only drivers in the field to even have a top 5 in the previous attempt at this track a couple years prior. Evidently, that speed has stuck with you in a different car. How are you feeling here this evening?
I'm feeling pretty. feeling pretty good because when I've initially started doing practice laps in practice, I was not confident in this car at one bit. I was just burning off the right front tire, just try, trying everything to get. Yeah, I cannot talk right now. Yeah, I was trying to everything to keep keep from burning off the right front tire, and I'm kind of glad it actually paid off at the end of the race.
Yeah, it certainly seemed to work out for you here tonight. Like you said, had some issues in practice, but practice isn't everything, as you obviously demonstrated here tonight. So, heck of a run here for you.
Yeah, it was after I don't get top threes very often, so getting the second place almost pretty much feels like a win to me.
Sure enough. And coming in tonight's event, you were back in sixth in the point standings. So that should potentially bump you up considering you were only 2 points back from Mark Royce and only 6 points back from Joshua Rudolph. So that should bump you up a couple of spots heading into Lanier Dirt next week. How are you feeling about your chances going dirt tracking again?
Um, I'm just gonna try. I'm just gonna try practicing all week and wish the best of luck. Dirt's not dirt's not really a strong suit of mine. I don't have a whole lot of experience on dirt, so it's just gonna be a roll of the dice with whether if I've got speed or not.
Fair enough. In that case, dirt tracks aside, you still got three more races that aren't on dirt. Are any of those three ones you're particularly eyeing at chances to take home a win?
Um, hopefully if I can get a win, yeah, I'll try to get it. But as of right now, it just seems like Garrett's just in a zip code of his own.
Fair enough. Well, definitely will be exciting to see what y'all are able to do in the second half here this season. Of course, after that, heading on over to the truck, so that is bound to be one heck of an experience. But for now, Mr. Gardner, I'll let you celebrate that podium finish you got here tonight. But before I let you go, who do you want to thank for making everything happen?
Like to thank SM Racing for who's been sponsoring the league for uh oh gosh, how many seasons has it been?
Way too many to count.
Yeah. And I also like to thank you for broadcasting the race, and I also like to thank everybody who's out there watching and everybody who raced today. Without y'all, none of this would be possible.
Good deal. Well, thank you for coming out here tonight. Congratulations on the podium, and I look forward to seeing you next week at Lanier.
Looking to see you there next week as well.
And finally, finishing back here in the third position, up +5 from where he qualifies, is going to be the driver out of Medford, Wisconsin, Mr. Joshua Rudolph. How are you doing here this evening?
Pretty good. What about you?
I'd say I'm doing pretty good here tonight. Y'all put on a heck of a show here this evening, and I can only imagine it was even better feeling down behind the wheel of these race cars. How'd you feel coming into tonight's event? Did you think you would be doing this well?
No, not really. I thought that it was gonna be a struggle tonight. Struggled to keep that right front underneath me, and then getting through traffic. It felt pretty one lane groove-esque, and a lot of left, left, left. Not a lot of straightaway or anything like that. So didn't expect too much tonight, but battled my way through and caught a couple breaks with some cautions.
Fair enough. Do you think anything could have gone different here tonight for you to potentially walk away with a runner-up spot or maybe even a checkered flag?
I saw me coming to Gardner, and Brian, he faded there, and kind of was just riding it out, and got a couple spots, and I saw I was behind Jason, kind of running similar pace, and it would have took a lapper in all reality to get to him, and maybe Diamond and get the lane. We were too equivalent there at the end. I wasn't gonna catch him without a lapper or a caution.
Fair enough. I mean, either way, still a really solid finish for you. And of course, you came into tonight's event 4th in the point standings, only 3 points behind Brian Sabelski. So you could potentially be battling for a podium in the overall season point standings. How are you feeling about your chances with these next couple races?
So. I think that dirt could be a big wild card. I think that there's a chance to do good, and the road course, who knows? It's a road course. I'm not that good, let alone in the back usually at those. So, but we'll see. These mini stocks I'm not great at. Seems like I'm slower, but never know. Variety of spice coming up at you here, so catch a couple breaks, find a couple speeds. We'll see what happens.
Good deal. I definitely look forward to seeing what y'all are able to do here in these final couple of races here this season. Of course, for tonight, a podium to your name. And before I let you go and celebrate for the evening, the microphone is all yours. Who do you want to thank for making things happen here tonight?
I got to thank you guys for putting this league together and keeping it intact and letting us do our thing here on Monday nights. And I can't thank my teammate enough, Mark. He's been such a great help here and such a great idea person to bounce back off and forth and taught me a lot. And can't thank my sponsors enough for the hobby and Joe Getty Plastics. They've been with me since the start. So to get a shout out for my teammate there and my sponsors feels pretty cool, and being able to talk to you guys here at the end of the night feels really cool.
Good deal. Well, thank you for coming out here tonight. Always great to have you up here in the booth, and I definitely look forward to seeing what you're able to do next week at Lanier.
All right. Thank you.
You're here first, race fans. Your top 3 finishers here tonight: Garrett Hess, Jason Gardner, and Joshua Rudolph. But of course, those weren't the only drivers out here on the speedway, so how about we take a look down at our finishing results as they stand and see how the rest of the folks did here tonight. After your top 3 finishers, we got Brian Sabelski in that number 85 back in the 4th position. Then rounding out the top 5, the most improved driver here tonight, up +6 from where he qualified. That's Benjamin Harsty, finishing back in 5th. Then back in 6th, we have the CZ Robotics number 24 of Corey Logan, followed by the 78 of Derek Murphy back in 7th. Then back in 8th, it's the number 4 of Daniel Sparks, with the 45 of Mark Kluge back in 9th, and Michael Sparks rounding out the top 10. Then, unfortunately, back at the tail end of the field here tonight, it's one half of the SM Racing Products crew. That's going to be none other than Mr. Garrett Streets. That said, that's just about all we've got here from the Oxford Plains Speedway. Thank you all for tuning in here for tonight's race. Of course, next week, same day, same time, Monday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, going to be doing a little bit of dirt tracking at the Lanier Dirt layout, so that should be a bit of a fun one. But for now, that is all we've got here from the Oxford Plains Speedway here for tonight. Thank you all for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you all next time. Have a good evening, race fans.